So for our practice problem, we're going to open up the greeting card maker in Chapter 6. So make sure you download the Chapter 6 solution and open up the greeting card solution in there. So if I go open project, I go within Chapter 6 and I want this greeting card maker. We've already done the web control one, so I want this solution. In here I've got, first I'm going to show you a version with less code. This is, and then we'll work our way up to the version that's actually shown in the textbook. So here, again, we're going to make simple greeting cards. Let's just run this to show you how it works. So we open up a web page. We have some controls on the left. I can select different options and different fonts. I can select a font size, some sort of border. Say if I want to add a default picture and enter some text here. And then it'll update these controls over here using these what I've selected here. So we'll look at how that works. So let's go back to our code. So you could, in the version we just looked at, we can actually code in the values for these like combo boxes. So here's I've got a list and underneath the items I've actually hard-coded the different values. So I've created these, added these items and typed in the text and the value, and I made it the same for both of those. And the same thing with the fonts. I've hard-coded in the list of fonts here. And then we have a button here, and there's code behind this button. Right now there's no code in the page load event. It's all empty. And then I do some checks for when I hit the button to generate the controls. Over here on the right hand side I have a greeting, a label, the LBL greeting. I've got an image default. Here are my two controls that I'll be working with. Okay, so let's look at a version that's a little more complicated. So rather than hard coding in these things, we'll do some of this in code. And again, we'll be doing more and more of this as we do this. I'm going to just open up the greeting card maker .aspx file and look at it in design mode. So again, if I look under these lists and look down to items, there are no items here. The item editor list, everything is blank, and same with the fonts. And so this is actually done in code. If I go look at the code behind this and look at the page load event, so I check if it is postback. Again, remember that checks if this is the first time the page is run. The first time the page is opened and generated, it's not a postback. And so then I'll grab my background color list box there, and I'll add items. I'll add those items to it here. And the same way is I'll grab the list control for font names, and I'll add these items to that. So now I'm just adding those items here. Also going to do some different things. So if you remember, we also have a list of radio buttons here. And so that is what we're doing next, is we're creating a new list item. We're setting that list item, we're setting the text and the value, and then our list border, which is again this. Let me go back here. This radio button list is called list border. So I'm adding my new item to this, and this is a pretty common pattern. I have to declare a new item, fill in its properties, and then add it to my control or my list here. Here it's a little more complicated because I'm actually grabbing official border styles that are out there and converting them into strings. So I'm doing the no border style, and also I'm grabbing its value. Each border style has a number here, and I do this 3 more times again. So I add none, double, and solid. And so here I'm grabbing double, I'm creating the new item, setting the text and the value of that item, and putting it in there. So again, in code here, I'm doing similar to what I could do if I were to actually go in here and create a new item, add it, and enter its text and value. If I were to do all that, I'm just doing that in code directly. And finally, I'm going to make sure set the default image URL to a default picture we have in our project, and then make sure that none of the border items are selected. I guess that's the other thing we're doing here. And then when they click the button, I'm going to go through and do some checks. Let's just walk through again. I can select a color, a font, set a font size, and I'm just entering that font size as a text box, so I might actually enter a bad number over here, so I'll have to look at that, or a non-number field. I select the type of border. I can say whether or not to add the default picture or not, and type in some text here. And when I hit update, I'll go through, find these things, and recreate this. So again, in my command here, I've got my overall panel. I have a panel here called panel card. We haven't talked too much about panels, but they're just background kind of areas. I've got a greeting, a label greeting, and I have my image, my default image. So again, I'm just going to go through. I'm going to grab the what I've chosen as far as the background color, and then I can generate an actual color that way. There's a color object. I can say color and use the from name method. So I could just as well have put like white in here in quotes, but here I'm going to grab the text. So if I select white, it'll grab that here. Similarly with the font, I'm going to do grab the font name and set that equal to the label's font name. So this is the panel's background color, this is the label's font. I'm going to check the font size. I've got to watch, I'm going to grab the text box out here, and it might be a non-number, so I'm going to try to parse it, and this might generate an exception. We'll talk more about exceptions in a little bit, not in this unit. And so I have a try-catch block here to catch that exception, and again we'll talk about that and error handling in a future unit. But that's just to make sure that if this isn't an actual number in the text, I can handle it properly. So, and then assuming it is a number, I'm setting the label's font size to that. I'm also setting the panel's border, and again I have to do some parsing of the actual what I've selected as far as that value goes. Each border type is encoded as a number, so besides the name, besides double, let's go none, double, and solid, each are assigned value in the background by C#, and so I've got to convert that value into an integer and set the border style that way. So this is a little complicated stuff for this example, but hopefully you can kind of understand it. It's a little more straightforward. Again, if we checked our picture box, our checkbox for the picture, if that's true, we're setting this image value to either false or true. Every control here has a property called visible, and if it's false, this control will not show up on the page. If it's true, it will show up on the page. So one easy way to hide things is to just make them invisible, or to set visible equal to false. So again, depending on what you check for that box, we set this one way or the other. And then finally, we set the labels text to the text greeting that you've entered. So this just goes through and kind of walks you through the code for this greeting card. So it'll let us select different kinds of greeting cards. And I can update this. And again, each time I do this, it generates a postback, reruns that code, and regenerates the HTML. So it just kind of just shows how the page process works, that I can do this and regenerate the HTML each time through. So why don't you try this out, play with this a little bit, and then we'll build on this for your assignment for this week.